Okay, I am super late on this topic that wasn't even really a topic. It was just an article I saw a couple of weeks ago. But I had this video idea a couple of weeks ago, and then for a variety of reasons, probably depression at the top of that list, it just kept getting pushed back. For those who aren't aware, Bill Simmons a couple of weeks ago, I think it was on a podcast or an article or something like that, I don't know, I just saw the quote on Twitter. He said that LeBron James hadn't changed how basketball is played. LeBron was the best player in the league for basically a decade and a half and had one of the great careers ever, but you wouldn't say he changed how the game is played. Bill Simmons said this most recently, but this is also a take that I have heard before, not exclusive or unique to him. And I wanted to talk about this take today. Well, actually I wanted to talk about it weeks ago, but we're getting to it today because it's bullshit. It's not even remotely true, to say the least. So let's talk about it. Before continuing on with this video, about half of the people who watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you fall in that 50%, then please subscribe. Also drop a like on this video. Only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference. Trying to hit 300k subscribers on the channel by the end of the year, so your subscription would be much appreciated. Also, just a heads up, there is a deep dive coming out either Saturday or Sunday, depending on how quickly I'm able to get it out. So keep an eye out for that. It is called The Problem with What Ifs, and I'm looking forward to posting a deep dive again. So please, when that video comes out, go give it a watch as soon as you can and drop a like on it. Now, first things first, I do want to say that Bill Simmons in this specific take, and I think most people with this take, are mainly referring to how basketball is played itself, like the on-the-court product and not things surrounding that. But I do want to briefly talk about the NBA at large and the impact that LeBron has had on that. There is not a single person more influential in how business in the NBA is conducted more than LeBron James, for better or worse depending on who you ask. The decision that LeBron made in 2010 fundamentally changed player empowerment and player freedom, and that impact has only grown as that movement has expanded. Now, some old heads take issue with this and would say that LeBron affected the league negatively in that regard, but to me, while players spending their entire career on one franchise is certainly cute, being that these franchises do not reciprocate that same loyalty, I do not expect that out of players, and I don't think it ever really should have been expected out of players. I personally enjoy an era with more player movement, and I think it's better for the players. I think it's better for the league. I think it's better for the news around the league. It's just more interesting to me. But I also completely understand feeling in the opposite direction. But regardless of how you feel about it, the reason why star players are constantly on the move today is LeBron James. Sure, star players moved before LeBron, but it became really common after the fact. There's also another impact, which is the fact that star players have more influence on front offices than they ever have before. Take it like an example, like Zach LaVine with the Chicago Bulls. Zach LaVine's like the 25th best player in the league, or at least was perceived as that back when he was the head of what was making decisions up there. But he was like constantly in the ear of the front office, constantly being referred to about what moves the Bulls were going to make. That kind of stuff wouldn't happen a couple of decades ago, but it happens now because of LeBron James. Franchises now are trying to make the star happy, and being that the star player is the one that has that leverage, that's the way it was kind of always supposed to be. And just on that level, those are some drastic changes to the game at large that does affect stuff on the court if you really think about it, but if we're gonna be nitpicking here, we'll just say that it won't. But either way, those are two huge impacts on the game. But now let's look at Bill's take in regards to what is on the floor. Now, in the case of LeBron James, and really the case of most how players influence how the game is played, it really comes down to what teams look for in their players because of the influence of that player. The suggestion that LeBron has not influenced how basketball is played is really foolish, because just on a fundamental level, any model for success is going to at least be attempted to be replicated. And we've seen that with plenty of star players before. In fact, I am of the opinion that both Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson kind of ruined their respective positions for a while because every point and shooting guard was forced into the mold of those two players when that was an impossible standard. Some of these wannabe Jordans were successful in their own right and others were not. This particular take is something I'm going to make a deep dive about at some point. But essentially, any player who reaches the level of greatness of LeBron James is going to see some copycats, and those specific elements of the game that are being copied, you're going to see that with how the game is played as a whole. The best players and how they play influences and has ripple effects throughout the league. Does Jason Tatum not take a ton of fadeaways because Kobe took a ton of fadeaways, and Kobe took a ton of fadeaways because Michael Jordan took a ton of fadeaways? It's kind of like a generational thing, and you're going to see even more influence from LeBron James as the years go on. Now with LeBron, there are less one-to-one attempts of a recreation of like the next LeBron, especially because there's even more physical anomalies required to get over in order to reach a LeBron James next version of that, even more so than there was with Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson. There are examples of next LeBron Jameses, but really where LeBron's influence has less been just a one-to-one copy, and rather elements of his game that have been implemented universally throughout every single player in basketball. There's really two main avenues in the way that LeBron James has influenced how basketball has played, and the second one is kind of connected to the first one. But the first avenue is versatility. When LeBron James was brought to the table as a big forward who could both create his own shot and shots for others while being the best defender on the floor, that was not a common archetype. There were only a few examples throughout history before him who could do something like that. Versatility is perhaps the biggest staple of LeBron James's career and why he's so great. It's because he can kind of do everything. And I don't think anyone would disagree that the game today is far more versatile than it used to be. Gone are the days of players that have one or maybe two skills who see serious minutes. Gone are positions only expected to do a few things in a set parameter. Big men are now expected to do stuff previously only expected of guards and vice versa. This versatility was preached so much that positions are as vague as they have ever been, to the point where I would argue they essentially don't even matter anymore. This expectation of versatility from every position in the game was sparked by LeBron James. Not going to give him credit for the full thing, but he's a huge reason why that exists. The other avenue is the emphasis on big ball handlers. Pause. Looking at the type of players teams try to build around these days, it tends to be these larger players who possess guard skills, which thanks to LeBron's influence on versatility has become more and more commonplace. A few decades ago, players who were 6'8 to 6'10 were told to rebound and post up. Now they're expected to dribble and pass just as much as any 6'3" player is. The preference for larger ball handlers and the universal expectation of versatility for every player in the game, that is a large part played by LeBron James, and that is about as big of an influence as it gets. If there is something about how every single player plays that was in some way started by the expectations created by the success of LeBron James early on in his career, how many players can say that what they did directly impacted every single player in the league? I'm not saying every single player is versatile, but the players who aren't are scrutinized for that lack of versatility, so it's kind of a negative on their part. But either way, that expectation exists because of LeBron James. Not only has LeBron changed how basketball is played, he is also one of the most influential in that area of anybody, on top of completely changing the business landscape of the game. So no, Bill Simmons, you are wrong about LeBron not having changed the game, and if anyone believed he hasn't changed how the NBA works at large, you're definitely wrong about that. And this take is just really stupid, so just add it to the list of times that Bill Simmons was shockingly wrong. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, but that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.